Shabbat Shalom. Imagine, if you will, that you have just experienced the greatest possible calamity of your life. So great that it completely shatters your reality. And then, only 6 days later, it's your wedding day. And you're expected to experience the greatest possible joy in your life, even though the wounds of what has just been shattered are still raw. The emotional whiplash of such an experience would be enough to paralyze even the most stoic among us. And yet, we do it every single year. Today, only 6 days after Tisha B'Av, the day of Jerusalem's destruction and Israel's exile, we celebrate Tu B'Av, the holiday of love. This ancient day of celebration has become, in modern times, an opportunity to exchange cards and flowers, celebrate with music and dancing, and it's become a popular time to hold weddings. And Tu B'Av is a lovely, fun holiday that is also a little curious, both for its proximity to the saddest day of the Jewish calendar and for its elusive origins, which require a bit of textual detective work. The earliest mention of this date as a festival is in the book of Judges, chapter 21, in which the Israelite elders say, the annual feast of the Eternal is now being held at Shiloh. But this passage does not explain why Tu B'Av is a festival. And the commentators are not so helpful on this front. Rashi says nothing on the matter, while Metzudat David simply says, Yom Shemarbim Bo Korbanot Ladonai. It is a day of increasing sacrifices to the Eternal, and is a fixed observance year after year. The Mishnah takes up the subject in Tractate Ta'anit and describes a custom in which the maidens of Jerusalem would clothe themselves in white garments and dance in the vineyards. But the Mishnah, as it so often does, leaves us with more questions than answers. So the Talmud, as it often does, asks a question and comes up with perhaps too many answers. Here are a few. Tu B'Av is an agricultural observance, marking the end of the year of planting in advance of the sabbatical year, in which no trees are to be planted. By the way, the coming new year is a sabbatical year. Second explanation, Tu B'Av commemorates the decree permitting intermarriage between Israelites from different tribes. And one more for now, although there are many more. Tu B'Av is the day when an Israelite king removed blockades that had been placed by an idolater who sought to prevent pilgrims from ascending to Jerusalem and worshiping there. While each of these may provide good reason to celebrate, we are still left without an explicit connection between these events and Tu B'Av as a holiday of love. But there may be a hint back in our original Mishnah. Rabban Shimon ben Gamliel opens by stating that there were no days more joyous for the people of Israel than Tu B'Av and Yom Kippur. Why this particular pairing? And why would Yom Kippur be described as our most joyous day? After all, the Torah says, V'imitem et nafshotechem. It is a day on which we should afflict ourselves. But there is a parallel tradition that sees Yom Kippur very differently. Yom Kippur occurs on the same date that Moses descended from Sinai with the second set of tablets, renewing the covenant of love between God and Israel. This set of tablets was made after Moses smashed the first set, which occurred in the time leading up to Tisha B'Av and resulted in the great calamity of God withdrawing the divine presence from the Israelite camp. Let's imagine how God felt in this moment. God has just performed wondrous miracles for the Israelites, delivering them from bondage, providing them sustenance in the wilderness, saving them from dangers on the journey, promising them a rich and fertile land. And in return, what do? They complain, they rebel, and worst of all, at the very moment when God is preparing to reveal Torah to them, the people turn their back on God and build a golden idol to worship instead. The anger God must feel in this moment is towering. It is not just the anger of an authority figure who has been disobeyed. It is the anger of disloyalty and betrayal, infidelity to a spurned lover. In the aftermath of this shattering of stone and of spirit, God still says, "I will send an angel before you to bring you to the land I swore to Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, a land flowing with milk and honey. But lo e'eleh b'kirbecha, I will not go in your midst." Such a breach of love and trust seems almost impossible to mend. And yet, only 40 days later, Moses descends with the new tablets on Yom Kippur, and God affirms the covenant with Israel, even though God knows them to be unfaithful sinners. With this moment of reconciliation, Yom Kippur represents the most powerful expression of love, forgiving the other's misdeeds and embracing them with all their flaws. Tu B'Av is a bridge between Tisha B'Av and Yom Kippur. It is a first step toward repairing the broken relationship between us and God. This day helps us turn away from sinat chinam, the baseless hatred that led to our destruction and exile, and turns us toward ahavat chinam, love freely given, enabling us to reconcile with God, with each other, and with ourselves on Yom Kippur. Tu B'Av is an acknowledgement that our emotions do not turn on a dime, and that it takes time to heal. It is a reminder that true repentance and forgiveness do not happen in an instant, but begin with one first step. It's no coincidence that today is not only Tu B'Av, the holiday of love, it is also Shabbat Nachamu, the first Shabbat of 7 on which we read special haftarot of consolation that help us to move from the devastation of Tisha B'Av to the reconciliation of Yom Kippur. This Shabbat is called Nachamu because of these opening words from Isaiah chapter 40. Nachamu, Nachamu Ami, Yomar Elohechem. Comfort, O comfort my people, says your God. Dabru alev Yerushalayim. Speak tenderly to Jerusalem. Like a shepherd tending a flock, carrying the lambs in loving arms and gently leading the ewes. God extends this loving hand to us on this day so we can begin to rise from our mourning. Tu B'Av is like a valve for controlled release of grief. It is also a little spark of joy that invites us back to life and toward the work of tshuva and forgiveness. Our parasha this week says, Uvikashtem et Adonai Elohecha. If you search for the eternal your God, if you seek God with all your heart and soul, when you are in distress, return to the eternal. Ki el rachum Adonai Elohecha. For the eternal your God is compassionate and will not let you fail or perish. God will not forget the covenant. God remembers our covenant. So let us remember it too as we enter this time of introspection, reconciliation, and love. Shabbat Shalom.